today's video, we're gonna talk about the first live appearance of the Star-Spangled Avenger, Captain America! So, alright, let's go!
Alright, so we start off with some bad news. Many prominent people have been ending themselves because some mysterious figure known as the Scarab has been hypnotizingly telling them to do just that. The Purple Death murders, the media calls it, and the police are completely baffled. The only real lead that they have is that all of these men were linked financially to a scientific Mayan expedition in South America. So District Attorney Grant Gardner has been called into an emergency meeting with the mayor and Police Commissioner Dryden to try to solve and stop these murders. And District Attorney Gardner has a plan that may involve Captain America. Later, at the Drummond Museum of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Mulder and Professor Lyman are deeply concerned. They too were also part of that Mayan expedition, and they may be the next victims of the Scarab. While Professor Lyman is freaking out, Dr. Mulder, seems pretty calm about this. He even theorizes on what the Scarab may have wanted. Such as, let's say, all of the money from the men who have ended themselves earlier in the story, and how the Scarab may want to acquire the plans for the top-secret thermodynamic vibration engine which Professor Lyman has created. Wow, hey? That seems pretty specific. How would he know that? Because as he reveals to Professor Lyman that he, Dr. Maldor, is the Scarab. He is angry. He was snubbed on all the fame and wealth from the Mayan expedition, even after the expedition was his plan, which he financed. Seeing as he is not getting neither fortune nor glory, he will take his revenge on the others and take what he wants. He used a hypnotizing laced cigar on Lyman and got all the information on the thermal vibrator, which can be turned into a powerful weapon, and which in turn means the end of Professor Lyman. But as Maldor's men are stealing the plans from Lyman's home, Captain America appears! To where, despite everybody having a gun on them, a fistfight ensues! But the one surviving thug gets away with the plans for the thermo vibrator. Meanwhile, Captain America returns to his office as District Attorney Gardner? What? Grant Gardner, the District Attorney, is Captain America? Not Steve Rogers from the Army? What? Holy crap, man. As a District Attorney, he should know a thing or two about identity theft. Nonetheless, he meets up with his secretary, Gail Richards, and his buddy, Davis, to discuss these vials of Purple Death bombs that Captain America found in Lyman's home. Davis finds out that the deadly toxin within these vials is made from some very exotic plant. Not too many of those in town, so Gail Richards goes from florist to florist to see who may have these plants in their store. A real lead! She gives these florists a vial for them to smell, which, it's a deadly toxin. These guys don't even waft the odor towards their noses, they stick their nose right in the vial of toxic chemicals. It's like she's trying to eliminate the threats before they happen. Luckily, they don't, but Gail does indeed find the deadly florist, and she is now kidnapped because of it, to where she will be terminated. But, luckily, Grant Gardner walks into the store and gives a random rescue to Gail and in turn terminates the two florist crooks. Eliminates florist crooks. A sentence I never thought I would ever say, but here we are. But now that the plant for the Purple Death toxin is revealed, these plants are being destroyed throughout the entire city, which is good news, but it also puts a kink into the Scarab's plans. But he is crafty, this Dr. Mulder. He has other plans. Such as, seeing as District Attorney Gardner and Captain America are such good friends, Mulder will give District Attorney Gardner some false leads on the Scarab so Captain America will follow them into a trap. To which he does! But he also gets the upper hand on his would-be murderers and learns about the next move of the Scarab. Later, before his death, Professor Lyman had a prototype of his secret electro-vibrator machine made, to which now Gail Richards witnessed a demonstration from Mr. Gregory showcasing the destructive powers of this machine as they destroyed a toy building. Which doesn't seem all that, really dangerous. But this electro-vibrator machine is the size of an entire room, so I'm sure it has some more juice in it. But Dr. Mulder's thugs busted into the laboratory, where they put Mr. Gregory, Gale, and the other witnesses into a locked vault and set the prototype on overload to destroy this prototype, keeping its top secret destructive powers a secret, so that the Scarab will have the only working electro-vibrator in the future. Luckily, Captain America shows up, and he beats the crap out of the thugs really good like. And I gotta say, man, a pretty good tussle. Clearly, this Captain America does not have a super soldier serum, so the crooks are able to put up a pretty even fight, to which Captain America wins. He gets Gale and the others to alleged safety while he tries to turn off the overloading prototype machine before it reaches critical levels, as the building is collapsing around everyone trying to escape the building and around Captain America trying to turn this machine off. It looks like curtains for everybody, because really, man, this building is coming apart at the seams. How can anyone survive this? I don't know. You will have to tune in next episode to find the answers. But as it is, with that is the end of this, fantastic tale.
Yeah, hey, not too bad. Pretty darn good, actually. Not gonna lie, I'm actually a pretty big fan of these old movie serials. Especially seeing some older characters portrayed 80 years ago. Pretty neat! Like nowadays for Captain America movies, my favorite one would be Winter Soldier for sure. And for some kid 80 years ago, this would have been their Winter Soldier. Well, the one and only Captain America movie reference, I guess, then, eh? But with that, is it Captain America? Let's count the similarities of Captain America from the comic books to Captain America in this movie serial. The superhero persona of the hero is called Captain America, and that persona wears a Captain America uniform. That's it! Really, no super soldier serum, no shield, no nothing! It's like they wrote a story for one character and then realized that they actually couldn't sell it, so they just got a Captain America costume. Which, from a marketing perspective, worked out pretty good because, yeah, Captain America, that's the reason I watched it. But even though it's a pseudo Captain America, it was still a pretty good story.
So realistically, they could have kept the exact same story. Maybe instead of District Attorney being Captain America, they could have had Steve Rogers Captain America, being loaned from the army to investigate a potential threat against America with the electro-vibrator machine, national security during World War II. It makes sense. The rest of the story would have been exact same, but nay.
I love stories from back in these days, especially when the villain has some really giant mechanical contraption as a weapon or some laboratory like that. Something about an old-timey mad scientist, It just has that certain charm. So if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. But with all of that stuff, we do have some more behind-the-scenes kind of things about Captain America, about the creation of this movie serial, and all that other kind of stuff going on over here.
So yes, indeed, hey? Captain America! So how did this legendary character come to be? Well, let us take a little look. And with that, we're gonna go back to 1940 in the offices of Marvel Comics. But at this point in history, Marvel was called Timely Comics. I guess their comics always came out on time, so, that's a good thing. But this was a time that World War II was raging on in Europe, and America had yet not joined the fight. However, there were plenty of people in the United States who wanted to join the fight against evil. People like legendary comic book creators Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. So one thing that they could do, seeing as they work at a comic company, is create a comic book superhero character who can fulfill that desire. And so they put their creative heads together and they came up with a character called Super American. Because, obviously they wanted this character to be very patriotic and be emblazoned with a whole bunch of stars and stripes with the red, white, and blue. But they figured, the name Super American, even in these early days of the golden age of comics, calling a character super something was already becoming pretty cliche, so they decided on a new name. Seeing as this character would be a soldier, well, a soldier needs a rank, like Captain, and he's American, like America, so, Captain America. Pretty good name. Even though the soldier himself did not have the rank of captain, well, he eventually would later on down the road. But for the civilian identity of Captain America, they decided, well, obviously a soldier, and they gave him the name of Steve Rogers. They chose Rogers for the last name because in the army, when you get a message wired to you, you reply with Roger, as in message received. And with that, Captain America first debuted in Captain America Comics #1 in 1940. In this issue, we see a small, scrawny Steve Rogers get a super soldier serum and grow to become the perfect specimen of a soldier, where he got his red, white, and blue stars and stripes uniform and his fantastic shield. But with that shield did come a little bit of legal troubles. So MLJ Comics, later known as Archie Comics, already had a super patriot soldier fighting against the German army called the Shield. MLJ Comics contacted Timely Comics to say, hey, that Captain America shield really resembles the chest emblem of the Shield, almost perfectly. Would you mind changing Captain America's shield, seeing as we had that look first? So, Timely Comics did, and they gave Captain America that iconic round shield. At that point, these Captain America comics were selling like hotcakes, and so popular was this character that of course somebody would be knocking on Timely Comics' door to make a live-action adaptation of him, to which Republic Pictures did. There were other superhero serials out there like Superman, Batman, Captain Marvel, aka Shazam. So to have a Captain America movie serial happening, especially during World War II when America joined the fight, it seems like a no-brainer. So Timely Comics happily agreed. But, Timely Comics didn't quite know what they were getting with Republic Pictures. Timely figured, it was gonna be just like the comic books. Captain America in Europe fighting against the German army, more than likely having his sidekick Bucky along with the fight, But when Timely Comics found out that none of that was gonna be in these movie serials, they were not happy. They wanted Republic Pictures to completely change their story. But at that point, it was too late, and Republic Pictures didn't care. Republic Pictures argued that the sample pages that they got from Timely Comics did not flat out state that Captain America was a soldier, but really they could have picked up a comic book. You don't have to rely on just some random sample pages. But unfortunately, Republic Pictures were pretty well known for deviating away from the source material and telling their own type of story. Unfortunately, at this point, Timely Comics could not do much about it. All they could really do was just watch this non-Captain America movie serial. But as I've mentioned earlier, there were only two things about Captain America in this serial: the name of the character and the costume of the character. That's it! His civilian identity is not Steve Rogers of the US Army. It is District Attorney Grant Gardner. He did not receive any super soldier serum or anything like that. He's just a regular guy who likes to fight. He does not have his signature shield, although he does have a picture of a shield on his belt buckle, so I guess that counts. Instead of the shield, he has a gun, which Captain America didn't use that often. And also, he did not have his sidekick Bucky, but he did have his sidekick as his district attorney secretary, Gail Richards, so, well, I guess that's alright. The story did not take place fighting in a war. However, there were Captain America comic stories that did take place stateside, but even then, they were looking for spies and stuff like that, so you still had that war element. So when I theorized earlier that this serial seemed like they wrote a completely different character and then just slapped Captain America on it, that's actually kind of not too far from the truth. So in 1940, Republic Pictures put out a movie serial called Mysterious Dr. Satan, and that featured a masked superhero called the Copperhead. It is believed that this Purple Death Scarab story was supposed to be a sequel to that serial, but when they got the rights for Captain America, they just decided to kind of throw him into this already written story. Like I say, the story's not bad, but it's not Captain America. But still, if you wanted some Captain America stuff to watch back in the day, this was pretty much it. It is pretty funny, even in Captain America's next live-action outing in the 1980s, they still didn't get him right. Oh well, they eventually got it right, in the 90s and beyond, so I guess, better late than never. But that's pretty much the basics of the Captain America origin story and the story of this movie serial. The one and only production from Timely Comics, aka Marvel Comics, in the Golden Age, so we'll take what we can get. But when we get to the other stuff, we'll talk about it when we get there. So with this, that, those, and the other things, I guess that's that. Also, if you're interested, I created my own comic book channel, 215 Comics. And currently, I have created my own cartoon series, The Adventures of the Density. And recently started a radio series featuring my newest character, Elastomorph, with more titles to come. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link up top here to that channel and some links at the end of the video. Yeah! Right on, and there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.